I recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Raskin from Maryland, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Chairman Wenstrup and Mr. Ruiz, for this important hearing. The COVID-19 pandemic came to America in 2020, of course, when Donald Trump was president. And that president's policy failures, magical thinking, and total recklessness caused, according to his own special advisor on COVID, Deborah Birx, the unnecessary death of hundreds of thousands of Americans. Now, apart from the urgent question of how to improve our pandemic response from the debacle that he presided over, is the question of how the COVID-19 pandemic began. This, too, is a critically important question to answer to help us prevent and prepare for future pandemics. Answers must come from objective, fact-based investigations informed by doctors, scientists, and public health experts. At President Biden's direction, the intelligence community is also taking sweeping action now to understand the origins of the virus and to bring all relevant facts to light. Whatever the origins of COVID-19, whether it is bats or bureaucrats, no finding will ever exonerate or rehabilitate Donald Trump for his lethal recklessness in mismanaging the crisis in America, which cost us more than 1 million lives. Indeed, if COVID was actually the product of a lab leak or the worst bioweapon of mass destruction ever invented, as some have argued, and obviously we don't have the scientific evidence to say any of this yet, it would not only not remove Donald Trump's culpability, it would only deepen his culpability in the most profound way. Now, why do I say that? Because over the course of the crisis, beginning in January of 2020 and lasting through the spring, on more than 42 different occasions that we have identified so far, President Trump openly praised and defended the performance of Communist Party Secretary and Chinese President Xi in his handling of COVID-19 and boasted of how closely they were working together and boasted of Xi's openness and transparency. On January 22nd, 2020, when the first case of COVID was identified in the U.S., Trump stated, I quote, "We have it totally under control." When asked if he believed the U.S. would, quote, "know everything we need to know from China," he said, and I quote, I do. I have a great relationship with President Xi." January 24th, he posted on Twitter, quote, "China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi." March 21, in a briefing, he assured us China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. He added, "The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well." March 27th, he posted on Twitter, "Just finished a very good conversation with President Xi of China, discussed in great detail the coronavirus that is ravaging large parts of the planet. China has been through much and has developed a strong understanding of the virus. We are working closely together. Much respect." Because of time, I'm just giving the committee a tiny taste of Donald Trump's fawning, starstruck, sycophantic embrace of everything the Chinese government was telling him in 2020, but I will happily offer a lot more for any colleagues who think that the hunt for the origins will somehow absolve the last administration for telling Americans that COVID would magically disappear at Easter time, or everybody should just take hydroxychloroquine, or refusing to wear a mask, or never developing a national plan to defeat the disease. Whether it was bats or leaks or bureaucrats who caused it, Donald Trump was the biggest apologist in the United States of America for President Xi and the Chinese Communist Party. He could have directed the intelligence community to lead a COVID-19 origins investigation back in March of 2020, 3 years ago. He did not. He wasted precious time minimizing the risk of the virus and lavishing his praise on President Xi. He could have taken the origins of the pandemic seriously and held the CCP accountable. He could have pushed back against the CCP for interfering with the WHO's investigation into its origins, and he could have asked our intelligence community to intervene. He did none of those things. And everyone should remember that. Let's take the politics out of it, and let's get to the bottom of what happened. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.